Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Honda. On a drive with engineering, quality, and value, Honda, we make it simple. IBM. Entertained here at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome by Mr. George Benson, who is singing The Greatest Love of All as part of our Tribute to Children theme at halftime. George Benson, of course, whose Breezin' album is the highest-selling jazz album of all time. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Kelly. John Dockery alongside. 7-3 at halftime. Vikings on top over Tampa Bay. Buccaneers scored first on a 51-yard field goal by Bill Capiz. Then the Vikings got on the board on a 3-yard touchdown run by Ricky Young, and that's where we are at halftime. We thought a much higher-scoring football game, John. So far, the defense has been very solid.
Really surprising. I mean, when you look at an offense with receivers like Rashad and White and Joe Sensor, Darren Nelson, of course, Tommy Kramer throwing the ball, you're really surprised that Minnesota would only score 7, but Tampa Bay's defense is much better than it was in previous years. And also, Doug Williams on the other side of the coin thought he'd be able to put some points on the board. Minnesota's playing a lot more aggressively. Special teams, I think, also important. Eddie Payton, 2 good returns, a kickoff and a punt return. Good position for the Vikes. Coleman with that punt into the corner, that Knopf downed on the 4-yard line. Also good field position.
You talk about Minnesota on defense. They wanted to improve their interception ratio. They only had 16 a year ago. They did that. They came up with one at a key time in the first half. Let's take a look now at the first half statistics. You can see the Minnesota Vikings with 9 first downs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 5 yards rushing. The Vikings with a 35-yard advantage. Yards passing. And there is a big surprise, John. The fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have outpassed Tommy Kramer, who led the NFC in total yardage last year.
Certainly that's Kramer's strength, and it is a little bit of a surprise. Neither team dominating. Time of possession. Look at how close it is. So really we have a balanced game going for us offensively and defensively here. Can go either way with only a 4-point difference.
And each team with 1 turnover. The Bucs with a fumble recovery. The Vikings with an interception. Time of possession, though, sometimes can be deceptive. It's really not how long you have the football. It's what you do with it when you've got it. As you look now at Tommy Kramer warming up over on the Vikings sideline. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have just come out through the tunnel. And they are lining up on the far sideline. We're 7-3 at halftime. A big game for both teams on the opening day because, of course, these 2 teams have alternated as NFC division champions over the last 4 years. There's our quarterback comparison in the first half. Doug Williams, 7 out of 14 for 88 yards. Tommy Kramer, 9 out of 13 for 76 yards. Doug Williams with 1 interception, but that interception was not the quarterback's fault. It was batted free at the line of scrimmage and picked off by Scott Studwell for the Minnesota Vikings. So 7-3 at halftime, Minnesota on top. Of course, these 2 teams split a year ago. Tampa Bay won on the opening day season down at Tampa Bay, and Minnesota won their game here at Metropolitan Stadium. Not here at Metropolitan Stadium, here at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. The Met Stadium, about 20 minutes from here, out near the airport, of course, not in use any longer. This is the new home of the Minnesota Vikings, also the Minnesota Twins baseball team. There is the dome. We are indoors. No more heaters on the sideline for the visiting teams. The home team, the Vikings, of course, Bud Grant not allowed. And the commissioner, Mr. Pete Rozelle, is here to open up the 5th dome stadium in the National Football League.
62,000 strong, 14,000 more as you look at Bud Grant along the sideline than the old Met. A beautiful facility, $55 million. As you mentioned, the 5th in the NFL, of course, Detroit, Seattle, New Orleans, Houston, the other dome stadiums in the league.
Bill Capiz all set to tee it up at the 35-yard line. Back deep is Eddie Payton, who's electrified the crowd on at least one occasion here this afternoon. The Vikings on top, 7-3. We've got 30 minutes left in regulation. The opening game of the 63rd season in the National Football League. 28 teams doing battle and all hoping to get to the Super Bowl in the Rose Bowl out in Pasadena. Capiz approaches, tees it up, a high end-over-end kick, fielded by the Vikings down at the 1-yard line. To the 15, close to the 20-yard line, and not much more for number 49, Keith Nord. Fine specialty teams performer for the Vikings. So Tommy Kramer, Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White and company, and the number 1 draft pick, Darren Nelson out of Stanford, take the field now for Bud Grant. Take a look at the receiving department for the Minnesota Vikings. Rashad had 1 catch for 5 yards. Eddie Brown out of the backfield, 2 catches for 10. White had 1 grab. Sammy White for 13. Joe Sensor had 3 for 16, but 2 of those came late. And Tony Galbraith had 2 catches for 29 yards. First and 10, Minnesota at the 19-yard line. Ted Brown, 23 in the backfield, along with their #1 draft pick, Darren Nelson. Slot formation to the left side. Kramer sets the Vikings down. Straight ahead. Across the 20, up near the 21-yard line, goes Teddy Brown, the veteran out of North Carolina. Tar Heels, of course, on the short end of the Pittsburgh Panthers, 7-6, as college football returned to CBS last Thursday night. Lindsey Nelson did the play-by-play. You know, he did the play-by-play back in 1963, the last college game, an Army and Navy play. Ahmad Rashad out to the left side, Sammy White to the right side. Second down, 8 yards to go. Bucs stay in that 3-4 defense. They'll like to send a linebacker. Sensor has the ball stripped free up at about the 28-yard line. Good pressure that time put on by number 65 for the Buccaneers. Looping around that right end, Dave Stalls.
Joe Sensor got stripped of that ball, and I guess the ruling was that he didn't have possession. He's getting up very slowly, a little bit shaken on the play.
Cecil Johnson, the man who stripped the ball loose, the 6-year pro out of Pittsburgh, free agent. So it'll bring up 3rd down and 7. You can see 3rd down conversions for both teams. Somewhat surprising that the Vikings aren't a little bit more proficient, given their excellent short passing game. Sammy White, Ahmad Rashad split out left and right. Backs are split for Kramer. Straight drop. Bucs send a linebacker. Kramer in trouble, and down he goes. And a flag on the play down at the 25-yard line. Leroy Selman, the man that got to Tommy Kramer. Hugh Green and Joe Sensor going at it tooth and nail over at the top of the screen. And here is Gene Barth. It is holding, defensive holding against Hugh Green. He is not happy at that call at all.
It's interesting. We talked to Hugh Green yesterday. As you look at Tommy Kramer, and Hugh Green told us that he felt that he could cover out of the backfield as we listened for the call. It is number 53, Hugh Green, as you said. And you said last year he learned the game. He learned how to be a complete linebacker. Of course, at Pittsburgh, he was a defensive end, and he's going to be used more as a rusher this year. But he feels that he's comfortable. He knows the pro system now, and now he can apply himself to the next step of his development, that of going to the Pro Bowl.
Tampa Bay on the short end, 7-3 to the Minnesota Vikings. The Buccaneers, by the way, have won 3 consecutive opening day games. They beat Detroit in 79, Cincinnati in 80, and they beat the Vikings 21-13 in Tampa Bay 1 year ago today. 14:03 left to go in the 3rd quarter. Vikes on 1st and 10. Darren Nelson with running room. Slashes up close to the 30-yard line. Pickup of about 4. It'll bring up 2nd down and 6. The 4th-year pro out of Pittsburgh, David Logan, the big nose tackle, number 76 in there. And, of course, as we talked earlier on the telecast, also the nose tackle position, Charlie Johnson, acquired by the Minnesota Vikings this year, and they expect he'll be a big help. Former All-Pro for the Philadelphia Eagles. They go to the double tight end alignment now. Joe Sensor and Bob Brewer in there. Brewer, the 4-year man, free agent, signed in 1980. Marty McDowell is also in there. Lone setback for the Minnesota Vikings. Teddy Brown gets the call. Slashing to the right side, gets away from one Tampa Bay and up to the 35-yard line. So Minnesota keeps it on the ground. Somewhat of a surprise, John Dockery.
Very much so, because last year they were the worst team in rushing the football in the NFL, averaging around 95 yards a game. In preseason, they were a little bit better. They averaged 117 yards. And last week, Nelson and Galbraith put on a good running show here in the last exhibition game. But the strength of the Minnesota Vikings is that controlled passing game. Tommy Kramer throwing to his backs, throwing to his tight end and his good wide receivers.
Of course, Darren Nelson, the #1 draft pick out of Stanford, adds that added dimension, and that's something that the Buccaneers have to respect on defense. And Bud Grant giving the rookie a good test here this afternoon. 3rd and 2, double tight end alignment. Ricky Young, he's got the touchdown run up near the 37-yard line, very close to 1st down yardage, perhaps the measurement. Tommy Kramer goes up and takes a look. No signal yet from Gene Barth, the referee.
In the way the game is going now, Jim, neither team has taken control of this game. It's really there to be had, with one team waiting for the big play to get the momentum. As you look at Bud Grant and his brain trust along the sidelines, neither team has taken control of the game at the moment.
Now they'll call for the measurement. It is that close. Ricky Young, the ball carrier in his 8th year out of Jackson State, came to the Vikings in a trade with the San Diego Chargers. And, of course, the Chargers have certainly tried to shore up their defense a little bit. They've added Tom Bass, former defensive coordinator for Tampa Bay.
Inches short.
Viking fans want Minnesota to go for it. Of course, fans always want you to go for it. And Bud Grant will. Interesting call early in the third quarter. Third quarter, the ball is up near the 36.5-yard line. They need less than the length of the football. Let's see if they'll go for it or go on the long count and try to draw Tampa Bay offside. First down, Minnesota. Bold call, John.
Bold call. You have to admire it. And they went to the right side behind Tim Irwin, number 76. As you look at Grant along the sideline, sending in the play with Sammy White. Number 76, the second-man year out of Tennessee for the Vikings, replaces a legend here, Ron Yeri, 14 years, number 73. Who can forget him? Starting so many games at right tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. Gone this year to Los Angeles, looking for new challenges, playing behind some offensive linemen out there.
You saw John McKay, the Tampa Bay coach, on the sideline. He told us yesterday that he regards this opening day game as much more important than usual for several reasons. One, it's a division game in a division where the margin for error is growing smaller each and every year. He no longer thinks 9-7 will win the division title. He thinks maybe 11-5 this year. Tommy Kramer airs it out for Ahmad Rashad, tipped away by number 52 for the Bucs on a fine defensive play. Scott Brentley, third-year pro out of Florida.
Sammy White was clearing out that time with Rashad coming back underneath there. Kramer waited a split second too long. Great play and good reaction by number 52, Scott Brantley, for the Tampa Bay Bucs.
John, another reason that Coach McKay thinks that this game is more important than ordinary. Minnesota, the proponent, as you've been talking about, the controlled passing game, and John has made some refined changes in his defense to try to stop such an attack. So he's really testing out this new Buccaneer defense against the high potent passing offense of Tommy Kramer and company. Number 20 checks out. Number 34, Ricky Young, checks in for the Vikings on second down and 10 yards to go. 11-12 left to go in this third quarter. Minnesota up by 4, 7-3. Play action. Kramer comes back against the flow, and an excellent defensive play by Tampa Bay. In there with a big hit, Cecil Johnson, the free agent out of Pittsburgh. He was not fooled at all by the play action. He came up with a big hit against Teddy Brown.
Cecil Johnson, 5 interceptions in 1981. A big play guy, reads this very well, even though Kramer rolls the other way a little bit. Cecil Johnson, number 56, is getting blocked. That's number 72nd, 67, Dennis Swilley, the center, coming out to block on him, plays off the block, makes a good play on Ted Brown.
Yeah, we're talking about the new look in the Tampa Bay defense. They played somewhat safe 3-4, the basic error-free 3-4. They would lay back and they would kind of wait, John, for the offense.
11:01.
Gene Barth is making a correction on the clock. It's at 10:48. It'll be run back to 11:01. He made a change in the defense. It's no longer the same 3-4. They'll send a linebacker blitzing. The reason for that is the game is changing in the NFL. The passing to the backs is becoming more wide open. He said you now have to make something happen defensively. You can't allow the other team to control the ball, or you can tell your own offense to pack it up and go home.
And teams have gone to the playoffs on defense. Just look at the New York Giants last year.
Third down, 10 yards to go. Kramer, play action, reverse to Teddy Brown in all kinds of trouble. Now gets a block. Kramer throws a block. Ahmad Rashad comes over, but Teddy Brown does a lot of running and doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage. Neil Colsey, number 20, in there on the hip, the 8-year pro out of Ohio State. Thought for a moment Brown might lateral the ball back to Kramer. Kramer might look downfield for a wide receiver, but it wasn't to happen. So 3rd and 12, and Greg Coleman will come in and kick it away to number 21 for the Vikings, Johnny Holt, who is back deep awaiting this kick from Coleman. You see the stats on him so far this afternoon. Holt back at his own 25-yard line.
And it's interesting, Greg Coleman talking about the dome. He said, on the 8th day, God created the Vikings. On the 9th day, he created the dome. That was after he kicked a 70-yard punt in preseason. He loves it in here.
Coleman will go for the far sideline. He gets away a beauty. A spiraling Holt will chase down and have to carry out of bounds inside the 25 at the 23-yard line. However, we've got a flag all the way back upfield. It'll be roughing the punter against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Big break for the Vikings. They get the football back. We'll take another look. John McDonough, our director down in the truck, has another look from the end zone.
See if we can pick it up here. Coleman taking his time.
We'll take another look. John McDonough, our director down in the truck, has another look from the end zone.
See if we can pick it up here. Coleman taking his time.
Personal foul, warning to the kicker, 33 defense, first down.
It's one of those slight personal fouls. Coleman did a good job of spinning around like so many of the punters do these days. They go to acting school, come away with their degrees, and a penalty.
Kind of a silly penalty for the Buccaneers to take, but because it appeared as if the culprit wasn't really paying attention to where the leg of Coleman was. He could have avoided the punter, and thus no penalty. But now the Vikings have it first down and 10 yards to go at their own 40-yard line. 10:05 left to go in the third quarter, and a distraught coach John McKay on the sideline. Brown and Nelson are your running backs. Rashad to the near side. White to the top of your screen. First and 10 Minnesota. White comes in motion. And Kramer with a quick out. Rashad's got it up near the 45, but he is decked backwards immediately on a fine defensive play by Mike Washington, the 7-year pro out of Alabama. They like Washington and Norris Thomas on the corners, the Buccaneers do. One of the reasons, the fact that these two players are maturing, John, the fact they're able to blitz the linebackers more than they were last year.
Exactly, and number 40, Mike Washington, is in his 7th year out of Alabama. At that point in your career as a defensive back, you've learned pro football. You understand it mentally, physically, you're at your peak. So it's a good time for a defensive back around your 5th, 6th, 7th year.
One more pass completion to Ahmad Rashad, and he will move into 16th place on the all-time NFL receiving list. He's played 3 times now. You can see the speed of Darren Nelson. First down and more inside Tampa Bay territory. Jeff Davis finally wrestled him down. A big pickup of 8 yards. You could see the acceleration as Darren Nelson turned the corner. The big block thrown, as you'll see, by number 23, Ted Brown.
I was just going to say his running mate, number 23, Ted Brown, makes this play by taking down the Tampa Bay linebacker. The left of your screen there, you see the linebacker, number 59, being taken down, slowed up. That's Andy Hawkins. Darren Nelson does the rest on his own. The man is in overdrive.
You know, we're talking about Ahmad Rashad moving into a tie for 16th place in the all-time NFL pass receiving list. He will tie a man who is coaching for Tampa Bay on the sidelines this afternoon, Boyd Dowler. First and 10 Minnesota inside Tampa Bay territory. Darren Nelson is wide open. Tommy Kramer's got him inside the 35 to the 30. A move to the outside by Darren Nelson, and that's why he's the number 1 draft pick. Darren Nelson out of Stanford inside the 24-yard line. First and 10 Minnesota.
He's just like electricity. Comes out of that backfield. Ted Brown led the way, cleared the way for him. Ted Brown will be the first man out of the backfield. Nelson will follow him. He'll be wide open, and when he gets the ball, watch this.
Play action to Ted Brown. The linebacker came and cleared that zone, and you can see Nelson. There's the move around one of the Buccaneers as he beats 54, Richard Wood, and finally tackled by Tampa Bay. Richard Wood helped out on the tackle. Darren Nelson, big first down for Minnesota. From the 24 of the Bucs. Got his man. Darren Nelson, he came right back to him. Picks up about 3 yards on the play. They strip him of the football, but not before the whistle had blown. Richard Wood in there at the tackle again. Right now, Darren Nelson, Tommy Kramer and company working over that right side.
You get a feeling that they're picking up the tempo, and we talked a lot about Darren Nelson. To understand how good he is, you have to realize that there were some fine backs in the draft, 6 or 7 taken in the first round. Guys like Marcus Allen, the Heisman Trophy winner, Walter Abercrombie, as he's coming out getting a standing ovation, Gerald Wilhite, Butch Wolfall, Gerald Riggs, all good running backs. He was the first one taken in the draft.
Nelson did not catch a pass in the first half. Now he's caught 2 in a row on this drive. And, John, you have to go back to the roughing the punter penalty against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that allowed Minnesota to keep this drive alive. 6:53 and counting left to go in quarter number 3. Position on the cornerback. You take another look, and look at Tommy Kramer.
You have to wonder why Mike Washington let him inside. Perhaps number 34 inside was supposed to have help. Mike Washington didn't get it from number 34, Cedric Brown. The touchdown.
22-yard scoring strike. Sammy White on the receiving end, Tommy Kramer on the tossing end. All set for the extra point try. Dan Meyer, who's perfect in the preseason, keeps the streak alive once again. And the Vikings now go up on top over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by 11. Tampa Bay had a 51-yard field goal in the first quarter by Bill Capice. Since then, they've been held scoreless. The Vikings have added 2 touchdowns.
When I was looking for a small computer, I went to IBM because they know what a small, big company needs. I wanted data, word processing, and some word data processing. And they showed me a small computer to fit our budget. IBM even had a place to learn how to use it. That impressed me. Us. And my good business sense even impressed my girlfriend, Charlotte.
IBM. Introducing another engineering wonder, the new 1982 Honda Accord. It handles better. And to use less energy, we've increased the gas mileage. We've improved the aerodynamics and made it quieter inside. We've also made it roomier. Any wonder the new Accord is so well engineered? After all, it's a Honda.
Honda, we make it simple.
Jim Kelly, John Dockery back at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. 6:48 left to go, and you see the scoring drive. Tommy Kramer hitting Sammy White as the Vikings went 81 yards in 14 plays. And, of course, the key play in the drive, John, had to be the roughing the punter penalty against Tampa Bay, a very costly penalty.
Because you sense that Tampa Bay was getting some momentum. The defense is playing well. We'll see if Doug Williams can get it back for Tampa Bay now.
Short kickoff by Danmar. Morton Fields at the 14. Lots of running room. A wall of blockers. Look out. Had he gotten away from that one man, he had a convoy set up over on the left side. John Turner, number 27, the 5-year pro out of Miami of Florida, the man that made the ankle-like tackle. Otherwise, it would have been a foot race and off to the goal line for Tampa Bay. You look at Danmar. Doug Williams coming out at quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They trailed it by 11. 1st and 10 to go for the Buccaneers. Their own 30-yard line. Tommy Kramer so far 13 of 20, 124 yards and 1 touchdown. Kevin House, Gordon Jones. Wide receivers in the slot to the right side. This is Kevin House in motion to the top of your screen. Wilder and Owens, play action. Doug Williams fires, got a man open. That's the tight end, Jimmy Giles. First down and more, Tampa Bay. Giles carrying the pigskin out there like a loaf of bread. Breaks into Viking territory. Down across the 45, down to the 43-yard line. Before Dennis Johnson, number 52, Mark Mullaney, number 77, made that tackle. Take another look at tight end Jimmy Giles.
And you sense the cool of Doug Williams here. A lot of play action, gets some pressure, stays in there. Giles make great hands. Look at him carrying that ball. Coaches get heart palpitations when they see that. Tucks it away at the last moment, holds on for the first down.
Of course, Jimmy Giles, number 88, is 6'3", 245. You saw him yesterday in the hotel. You saw the size of his hands. He wrapped it right around that football.
And he told me
10 Tampa Bay. James Owens out of UCLA gets a block, tries to clear the left side, and cannot. Knife behind the line of scrimmage, and it'll be 2nd down and 11 yards to go. We're back in our booth, joined by NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle, who's been commissioner of the National Football League for the last 23 seasons. We're in the 63rd season. We open up with 28 teams, all hoping to get to Pasadena. Welcome.
They're shooting for that Super Bowl, and you can see the intensity of the play out here today.
Of course, you're here to help open up this new stadium, the 5th Dome Stadium in the National
That's
Football
right.
League.
I want to be here for the regular season opener.
Do you miss the Met Stadium at all after all those memories, all the icicles and all the frozen snow bowl games?
It was colorful. This is better.
We had some great moments there, of course, during the glory years of the Vikings. They're winning the division 12 times in the 21 seasons that they played there. Commissioner, this season opens up with somewhat of a cloud over it, of course. The Players Association, the threat of a strike, some kind of player action in the next 4 or 5 weeks, perhaps. As the commissioner, all the fans all across America who love this sport would like to know how or if a strike can be avoided.
Well, we certainly hope so. I believe there's the money there if the players and the owners can just cut it up equitably. And I think it's them understanding the numbers, what's available, and then reaching a compromise. I'm staying close to it. I don't think I'd serve any purpose by getting involved now. I don't think Ed Garvey would particularly be interested in my solutions for compromise. If they get close, hopefully I can be an escape valve.
Commissioner, are you optimistic that a strike can be averted?
I don't think I can say that. I'm hopeful. I'm always optimistic. But I think it'll be difficult to say that there won't be a strike. I hope there won't be.
optimistic as the season begins here in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. Of course, a man we had on many times in the old Metropolitan Stadium. Senator Humphrey is missed by all of his fans here in Minnesota.
Yes, I recall Senator Humphrey during the Viking playoffs out in the cold in the old stadium, and being on a CBS, I think, pregame show with him, a barbecue on the field. He was a great statesman and obviously a wonderful football fan.
Commissioner, thank you for joining us. We'll let you go back to your tailgating party in the booth next door.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pete Rozelle, in his 23rd year, who has led the National Football League. 28 teams now, of course, and it is one of the more popular spectator sports of all time. 1st and 10 to go, Tampa Bay. The ball on the 31-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. The drive keeping alive as they get it back close to the line of scrimmage, and not much more. Jimmy Owens, the ball carrier out of UCLA, and he is brought down by number 54, Fred McNeil, in his 9th year, former Bruin out of UCLA himself.
While we were away talking with the commissioner, of course, Doug Williams put together some yards, got 20 or so yards, completed a nice pass, and Tampa Bay appears to be on the move. Of course, they better get on the move. They're down by 11 points late in the 3rd quarter. Snell is hurt going to the sideline.
He's a first-round draft pick in 1980 out of Wisconsin, 3rd-year man, 6'4", 265, does not look like to be back in the near future. 2nd down and 9 for the Buccaneers. They trail it by 11. Very important to put some kind of points on the board here, John.
Very important.
The blitz is on. Doug Williams, even though he was being chased down by Mullaney, somehow managed to get that ball away. That shows you the strength of a Doug Williams. Now, Holloway and McNeil rushing in from the left side, and number 72 is down. That is Jimmy White, the first-round draft pick out of Oklahoma State, who is down. They blitz McNeil. This is something we expected. McNeil to be blitzing along with Matt Blair, number 59. So while we've got an injury, we'll take a timeout. 3:38 left to go. The Bucs on the short end by 11.
Welcome to Miller Time. It's all yours and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. You've got the time, we've got the beer, for what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time, yours and mine.
The best beer for the best time of the day. Miller High Life.
No other wagon gets better mileage around town than the Honda Civic wagon. Well, with one exception.
Honda, we make it simple.
There is James White, the 7th-year pro out of Oklahoma State. You can see the ice pack. They are also working on that right ankle. It's very tender right now. So Randy Holloway, number 75, will be in and take his place. A first-round draft pick in 78 out of Pittsburgh. 5-year man, number 75, Randy Holloway, and now defensively for the Minnesota Vikings. It is 3rd and 9, and big play time for Tampa Bay. Carter and House in the slot. They flood the left side. Doug Williams with a straight drop, throws it incomplete, intending it for number 84, Gordon Jones. John, that was a catchable pass.
That was a catchable pass. Gordon Jones coming over the middle, just couldn't hold on to it. Doug Williams disgusted. That was an important play.
Around the NFL today, we've got some scores. The Giants are deadlocked with the Atlanta Falcons 7-7. Bruner, a touchdown toss to Ernest Gray. William Andrews has run in from 15 yards. That's all the scoring there. Hipple has a touchdown toss. Matsui a touchdown run for the Bears. The field goal, a difference as the Lions lead Mike Ditka in his debut as the head coach in Chicago. Field goal try well within the range of Bill Capice. They will spot this at the 37-yard line. It will be a 47-yard try. He has hit from 51, and this one is wide to the right. So he has missed the first wide to the left. He has hit the second one from 51. He has missed the third one wide to the right side. Score stands, 3:30 left to go in the 3rd quarter. The Minnesota Vikings lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by 11.
Watch this demonstration of how the tough new-size Ford Ranger can conquer mountains. This new small pickup gets this high gas mileage and carries this payload. Ranger's husky new truck engine can haul this mighty load up this grade, 2 times steeper than Mount Washington. or even this nasty grade. 4 times Pikes Peak. However, this super steep angle, even Ranger won't try. This is Mount Everest. Save hundreds during Ford's factory-authorized clearance sale.
When Mattel Electronics asked me to tell you about Intellivision, I was delighted. But now they've got this $50 rebate. Well, I don't think you should buy an Intellivision because of a rebate. I think you should buy one because it's a marvelous system. A rebate commercial? I won't do it.
But we will get a $50 rebate after you buy an Intellivision master component.
The irrepressible Jimmy Connors meets the man who stopped John McEnroe, Yvonne Lendl. The men's final of the U.S. Open Tennis Championships on CBS Sports next.
Burt Jones getting off to a lightning quick start for the Los Angeles Rams. Green Bay has just scored. Lynn Dickey to Paul Kaufman from 4 yards out, and the Packers are on the board. Before that, the Rams were blowing out Green Bay at home. For the Vikings, Darren Nelson, their top draft pick in motion. 1st and 10, Minnesota. Tommy Kramer comes back. Ted Brown picks up blockers to the 30. Down he goes at the 34. So he turned nothing into something with good extra effort and manages to salvage 3.
He's one of those backs that has the ability to cut at full speed anywhere. I mean, there's all that talk about turf backs. About being a turf back, as you look at more scores, Philadelphia on top of Washington 20-14. An important game for them, of course, for both those teams. Cincinnati shutting out Houston 24-0. Looks like they want to go back to that Super Bowl, Jim.
Some of the Oiler players not happy with head coach Ed Biles at all. Buffalo is leading Kansas City at home. Chuck Knox and the Bills. Baltimore 3, New England 3. A battle between 2 rookie coaches in the National Football League. Ron Meyer and Frank Bush. Darren Nelson looks at 2nd down and 7. And he gets it across the 35 up near the 37-yard line before he is finally chopped down by Richard Wood. They would have called that game in Baltimore the draft bowl game. Patriots and the Colts. Huh? Of course, the Colts are going with a rookie quarterback, a fellow who played for Frank Bush out at Arizona State.
Pagel has beaten out Art Schleister for the moment.
And a change in quarterbacks, too, for the Patriots. They're going with Matt Cavanaugh, former Pittsburgh Panther, instead of the veteran Steve Grogan. Tommy Kramer on 3rd and 3. Got his man Brown, but he will be knifed backwards before he picked up the 1st down. They had to get it up to across the 40-yard line. He was chopped down at the 39 by Hugh Green, number 53.
It's interesting that Hugh Green helped Ted Brown up. Remember in the first half, he and Joe Sensor were going at it along the sideline. Apparently Hugh has calmed down a little bit.
Coleman will come in and kick it away. Holt back at about the 20-yard line of Tampa Bay. And the Buccaneers are on the short end by 11, 14-3 with a minute and 30 seconds left to go in the 3rd quarter. In a game that's going much quicker than most expected. Everybody expected more of an aerial circus with Doug Williams and especially Tommy Kramer. Coleman gets a beauty away. High kick that Holt will hammer down at the 18-yard line. Flag on the play, upfield back at the 35-yard line of Tampa Bay. Holt manages to slither forward to about the 21 before Keith Nord, number 49. Keith Nord, what a job he has done today on the specialty teams. He has made 2 solo tackles, and he has also fielded a punt by Coleman inside the 5-yard line of Tampa Bay, giving them very bad field position.
If you're not going to be a starter, which Keith Nord is not, on an NFL team, then you have to contribute somehow, and coaches look for that special team help, and he's certainly giving it to the Vikings, number 49.
Of course, this year, the NFL roster is expanded by 4, John. Here's Gene Barth, the referee.
We have a post-possession foul, illegal use of the hands, number 54, during the run back.
And Jimmy, you talked to Pete Rozelle a little bit about the cloud hanging over the season, the NFL strike, of course, and we talked to John McKay yesterday. He thought his team was ready mentally, but he said if there were penalties, we'd know they were distracted and something else was on their mind.
But I think, John, that some of the penalties the Bucs have taken were not strike-oriented.
Nice car. Thanks. There's a new Toyota that's been getting a lot of notice lately.
Nice car.
The new Toyota Celica.
Nice car.
A Celica that carries on the sporty Celica line in space-age fashion with wind tunnel sculptured lines and 5-speed overdrive, a 2.4-liter propulsion system. All the stuff that makes Celica the right stuff.
Nice car.
Celica.
The great American pastime, washing the car. You love to keep it clean on the outside. Prestone worries about the inside, about rust building up inside your radiator. If you don't change your antifreeze when you should, you wouldn't believe the rust and corrosion that could be there. See how bad it can get after you put just 10,000 miles on weak, neglected antifreeze? See the Prestone difference? Don't wait. Put in fresh Prestone now. Deep inside, trust Prestone.
As we went away, we're talking about some of the penalties that the Buccaneers are taking, not being strike-oriented. To embellish that a little bit, John McKay said if they took foolish penalties, if they're jumping offside offensively and defensively, if there's motion on offense, then it shows that our concentration in practice just wasn't there. But some of the penalties, John, that the Bucs are taking, penalties of execution, illegal use of the hands, holding, pass interference, those kind of penalties are not concentration-oriented. Those are execution penalties. Kevin House and Gordon Jones are your wide receivers. 1st and 10, Tampa Bay. They trail by 11 with 1:11 to go in the third quarter. Doug Williams fired that ball complete. He said he did not have possession. He was juggling the ball, and Gordon Jones is not happy with that call at all, and Doug Williams is even less happy. John Turner made a fine defensive play.
That was a beautiful throw. What separates one quarterback from another in the NFL is the ability to throw the deep out pattern. Doug Williams has that kind of arm. Here he delivered the ball perfectly to House. On the sideline, he's juggling the ball there, doesn't have complete possession of it, and that's the call, an incompletion.
Excellent call. Both officials in fine position to make that call immediately.
Gordon Jones, number 84, the man who juggled that ball, not Kevin House.
And John Turner, the man who was helping him juggle the ball as he was holding on to one hand out of bounds. Kevin House and Theo Bell, wide receivers left and right. The backs are split on 2nd and 10. Clock stopped on the incompleted pass. Doug Williams in be careful territory finds his man Wilder out of the backfield. A slashing run across the 20, and very good first down yardage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Curtin off in there in the tackle, the free agent out of Kansas, but there's a flag down on the far side of the field.
So a nice touch by Doug Williams on this. 4 years ago, Doug Williams would not have been able to throw this pass, but here he just lifts it over the defensive man, the linebacker, and then Wilder does it on his own as he runs by number 25. Curtin off makes good yardage.
He did step out of bounds back at the 19-yard line. The flag just dropped down, slipped out of one of the pockets. There was no penalty, but he did step out of bounds before picking up the first down yardage. So that left ankle just hit the chalk mark. So it'll be 3rd down and 1.5 to go for Doug Williams. They go with a double tight end alignment now. Obradovich in with Jimmy Giles. And they give it to the second back through. Look out. The 4-year man out of UCLA, very explosive. Number 26, Jimmy Owens, picks up the first down yardage before Tom Hannon, 3rd-year man out of Michigan State, makes the tackle.
Credit the offensive line for that first down. Wilson, Farrell, Snell. Well, Snell's hurt, but as we update some of the scores, the Giants leading Atlanta 14-7. Scott Bruner, of course, taking over for the injured Phil Simms. St. Louis next week here on CBS, 14-0. Go up against Dallas. And St. Louis at home against Dallas is tough. They beat them 4 out of the last 8 times they've met.
Cardinals led by Neil Lomax at quarterback, and of course Archie Manning is the veteran signal caller, but Bun Phillips is set. The ball is batted loose by number 79, Doug Martin, the 3rd-year pro out of Washington. Incompleted pass. That is some defensive job when you're going up against 6'4" Doug Williams. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints. Bum Phillips in New Orleans has said that if Archie Manning cannot move the team, he'll go to Ken Stabler very quickly.
Ken Stabler didn't look bad last week. Let's look at this again. Doug Martin, possibly the best pass rusher, best defensive lineman on the Vikings, comes from the right-hand side of your screen. He's all over Doug Williams right here. Whew. No chance for Doug to get rid of that ball.
You know, we've been talking about the number 1 draft pick for the Minnesota Vikings all afternoon, Darren Nelson. The Buccaneers have a number 1 draft pick, 2 out of Penn State. He is 6'3", 260. Sean Farrell. And you take a look at the right guard position from the end zone camera. 2nd down, 10 yards to go. Williams with a straight drop. Blitz by the Vikings. Intercepted Minnesota. John Turner tries to get to the 20-yard line. He's knifed down at the 23. Wilder finally made the tackle. The Vikings, who only had 16 interceptions last year, have picked off 2 this afternoon.
Doug Williams' vision is always a problem. Watch as you look from behind the quarterback, you'll get a feel of what Doug Williams is looking at downfield. All the confusion, all the bodies. He doesn't see Turner, has enough time, not really pressured, throws behind his receiver. Turner picks it off.
John, the Vikings wanted to be more aggressive on defense, especially in the secondary. I think it's significant that both Scott Studwell and John Turner, who have the interception so far this afternoon, didn't have any last year.
Exactly, and they only had, once again, in preseason, Bud Grant was worried about it. They only had 3 interceptions. He says, guys, we have to get to the ball. But for a defensive back to do that, he has to feel comfortable with the rush.
Bob Brewer is the tight end. Joe Sensor is on the sideline. Vikings start from the 24 of Tampa Bay. Sammy White in motion to the top of your screen. Play action trying to freeze the linebackers. Kramer comes right back to Sammy White, who incomplete down at the 9-yard line. Contact made by the defender. The cornerback came up, number 40 for the Buccaneers. That's Mike Washington. And Sammy White is thinking, I wonder if I didn't get hit a little bit before the ball got there.
Tough play. You see the play action here. Toughest play in football is a post corner. Watch this. Washington hits him just as the ball gets there, gets his hand over the top. It's a good defensive play, even though White doesn't agree.
That's the end of the third quarter. The Vikings lead by 11.
This roomy, inexpensive Subaru station wagon not only goes far on a gallon of gas, it also goes almost anywhere on a gallon of gas, thanks to front-wheel drive. But if you want more traction than our wagon with front-wheel drive, we suggest our wagon with on-demand four-wheel drive. Subaru, inexpensive, and built to stay that way.
Here's to good friends.
Do you guys realize this is our 4th summer place together?
Remember that old beach house we had?
How about the time you two almost set the woods on fire?
Okay. Who's ready for a Lowenbrow?
When you want the taste of a truly great American beer, tonight, let it be Lowenbrow.
You know, I think we finally got this down to an art.
Let it be Lowenbrow.
There you see the old and the new. Number 50, Jeff Seaman, wanted to play on the West Coast, went out to San Diego, felt the Chargers didn't have a home for him. He was over on the sideline diagramming plays for number 52, the new linebacker, Dennis Johnson, who got a chance to play when Seaman went out and tried Charger land.
Very close. Could have gone either way. Mike Washington making a good play on Sammy White.
Sammy White didn't think so.
I know, and you don't agree with me either, but as an old defensive back, I have to defend those fellas. I thought it was a good play.
You were one of the last to play offense and defense, one of the last two-way players.
Iron Man.
Leather helmets back.
No face mask.
Second down and 10 Vikings. Sammy White to the top of your screen. Ahmad Rashad to the bottom of your screen. He needs one more pass to move into a tie with Boyd Dowler in 16th place in the all-time NFL receiving list. Wide open was Bruner, the tight end. But the pass was incomplete. Around the NFL today, let's go to New York and Brent Musburger for this update.
The Green Bay Packers have struck back against the Los Angeles Rams. They have scored twice. First on that pass from Dickey to Kaufman, and then Eddie Lee Ivory on this run. Let's send you back to the stadium in Kelly.
We've got 14:56 left to go here in this football game, at least left in regulation. The Vikings on top by 11.
In Green Bay, it's interesting that Eddie Lee Ivory scored on a nice play. I saw him in preseason. He looks like he's recovered from those 2 knee injuries.
Third down, 10 yards to go. Slot formation to the left side. Rashad is in the slot. White is out. Down at the bottom of your screen is the second-year pro, Leo Lewis. Tommy Kramer in all kinds of trouble. Fires incomplete. He had White moving outside. Looked like it might have been intended for Ted Brown. It goes incomplete, and we'll see the field goal team once again. Dave Stahl, 65, the 6-year veteran out of northern Colorado, putting all kinds of pressure on Tommy Kramer, who is not having the afternoon that most felt Kramer would have.
And that I thought Kramer would have. I talked to him in practice the other day. He said he felt great, mentally and physically, that he was ready to play.
4th and 10, Steve Dills will hold. He'll spot the ball down at the 33-yard line. Rick Danmeyer, who had a sensational preseason, perfect in the field goal department, perfect on the PATs, will try from 42 yards away. And this one is just short. just about a yard and a half shy. Didn't quite get all of it, so the score stands, and the Buccaneers come out of it uninjured. 14:47 left to go in regulation. 14-3. Tampa Bay on the short end. We'll return to the Metrodome after this word from your local station.
Next Saturday on CBS Sports. Timely Rider heads the field at the Marlboro Cup. Next Saturday on CBS Sports. This is CBS.
This is Robert Redford. Help protect the endangered bald eagle. Write Project Eagle, National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C. 20036.
One issue stands above the others this fall. Jobs. The heart of the Perpich-Johnson campaign. Vote the Perpich-Johnson team. Together we will make Minnesota work again.
Nobody brings the computer age home like Atari.
Ready?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Not quite. Try it one more time.
Bonjour.
Learn a new language or play an exclusive Atari game like Centipede. At the Atari 400 home computer's new low price, it's a lot of computing power for the money. It could even change your life.
Bonjour, grand-mère. Grand-mère. Comment allez-vous?
The Atari 400 home computer. We've brought the computer age home.
You've got a lot riding on this letter, and you're going to hand it over to the post office? Federal Express has an alternative.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Subaru. Inexpensive and built to stay that way. Lowenbrau. When it's time for the taste of a truly great beer, let it be Lowenbrau. And by Honda Motorcycles, inventors of the Honda ATC, the off-road three-wheeler.
Tampa Bay has won their last 3 season openers, but right now that man, a very happy Viking, as Minnesota's on top by 11, 14-3. 14:47 left to go in regulation. Doug Williams needs to put some points on the board. Got Jimmy Giles at the 45. Giles knifes over the 50-yard line down to the 47-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. Tom Hannon in there on the hit, and that is some hit when you can bring Jimmy Giles down one-on-one.
What a nice touch by Doug Williams as we isolate here. Doug Williams throws it over. See the linebacker chasing him. He just can't keep up. That's Dennis Johnson. Giles told me before the game that he thought he'd be a step faster on this soft, cushiony, artificial turf. And he's showing it right here. Good completion, first down. Big play for Doug Williams.
And as you point out, a nice touch by quarterback Doug Williams, who at one time would have thrown that ball like a string, but that time he just looped it over the linebacker in front of the safety man, as you see the stat in the book on Jimmy Giles this afternoon. They try student body right, but not much doing. That's Michael Morton out of Nevada, Las Vegas. You talk about Tommy Kramer and Doug Williams. Let's take a look and see how the two quarterbacks have been doing so far this afternoon. Doug Williams, 12 out of 24 in the passing department for 166 yards, but no touchdowns. Tommy Kramer has thrown for over 130 yards. There you see, and he has the 122-yard scoring strike to Sammy White. John McKay told us yesterday in the hotel that he expected maybe as many as 50 to 60 passes by the Vikings this afternoon.
Well, that's generally what Kramer throws in a game.
Second down and 8, Tampa Bay. They trail by 11, 14-3. Good protection. They set up the screen to the left side. Mel Carter with a convoy inside the 35. First down, Tampa Bay, down at the 33. Again, Tom Hannon. He's playing like an all-pro, the free safety out of Michigan State so far this afternoon. Matt Blair with good pursuit.
Of course, it's a nice screen pass to Melvin Carver. An interesting story. A free agent out of Nevada, Las Vegas. Of course, he and Morton, the other free agent out of Nevada, Las Vegas, were the leading rushers in preseason. Here he makes a nice cut for some good yardage. An interesting thing when John McKay says you spend $16 million on scouting in the NFL and you miss a player like number 28, Melvin Carter.
Of course, the scouts don't have it too tough if they go to Las Vegas, do they? Inside the 30-yard line, slashing James Wilder, second-year back out of Missouri, brought down by Doug Martin, and it'll bring up second down and 5. Tampa Bay needs to keep this drive alive. They must put some points on the board now, 12:50 and counting in regulation. John McKay, Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson, of course, the great quarterback with the Cleveland Browns, used to throw that post pattern about as well as anybody to number 86, Gary Collins. Slot formation to the left side on 2nd down and 5. Doug Williams can run with the ball, though he's not done it this afternoon, as well as pass. Number 28, Mel Carver, the free agent out of Las Vegas, 5'11", 210, very strong.
The Las Vegas connection, Doug Williams called him. He said, we went to Las Vegas and we gambled and we won.
The men's finals of the U.S. Open Tennis Championships, and what a championship it's been. Following the game with the number 2 seed Jimmy Connors facing the number 3 seed Yvonne Lendl for the championship. That's next, right here on CBS Sports.
And it was interesting when we were watching it with Jimmy Giles. He liked Connors in that one.
He did indeed. John McKay, however, was preoccupied.
Haha, not that interested.
You'd have to sit on Miles Street.
3rd down, 2 yards to go. They go with a double tight end alignment, Jimmy Giles and Jim Obradovich. They almost had him in the backfield. Still they get him just back at the line of scrimmage. Tom Hannon again playing like a man possessed. Fred McNeil on the other side, 54, helped out. You can see Nelson and McKay looking at the clock now. They say, how much time is left? Do we need a field goal? Do we need a touchdown? Well, they need 11 points regardless of how you total them up.
I would think it would be important if they get a touchdown here, put some points on the board, and get back in this game. As you look at the clock, 11-14 and counting in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, Capiz has had a so-so afternoon. He's missed one wide to the left, one wide to the right, and he hit a bullet from 51. So McKay feels he needs to keep the drive alive and get the touchdown. Theo Bell wide to the right side. Kevin House, who's been quiet here in the second half, wide to the left side, and Doug Williams said, wait a minute. Well, you can go back to the last game of the regular season at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. The Buccaneers had the same kind of a situation facing them. A sellout crowd, a dome stadium, and lots of noise. And that game they won.
That was truly a great game for them. Who would have believed that they would have gone into Detroit and beat Detroit, who was so tough at home, that string of victories, but yet they did it. They won the Central Division. Of course, they don't want to talk about the following week, Dallas beating them 38-zip.
In my imagination, did they turn more lights on? Did it get brighter? I think it got the crowd very much a factor. A sellout crowd here in the first game ever, the Hubert A. Humphrey Metrodome in the heart of downtown Minneapolis. A rejuvenated downtown area because of this facility. Downtown very much alive for that last 2 or 3 nights.
Exactly. Minnesota Gophers here, a big win over Ohio University. They buried them 57-3. The vice president in town.
That's right. Mr. George Bush was here last night. The restaurants, the taverns are doing land office business the last 3 nights. We were talking with some of the Viking people. The hotels and motels are offering special football packages when the University of Minnesota plays and the Vikings are at home. So this facility and the Vikings moving downtown doing an awful lot to help downtown Minneapolis.
Of course, Jim, if this continues, there is a penalty possible for the home. No? Doug Williams trying to hear.
On 4th and 2, very important that his offensive linemen and running backs, of course, can hear the signal count. The crowd certainly not willing to cooperate.
Tough situation for a quarterback. Do you stop and go back to the huddle and wait, or do you go through with it? This breaks your rhythm as an offensive team.
Interesting, too, John. The 30-second clock is not even running. Gene Barth has said, we've got to give Tampa Bay every opportunity to get this playoff. Now he will talk with the captain of the Minnesota Vikings on defense and ask for the Viking players to give their assistance so that they can hold their hands up and try to quiet the crowd. There's the clock, which has not been running the last 2 plays. Now you'll see the Viking players, watch the Viking players ask for quiet for the Minnesota fans. Tough situation for Doug Williams to be in. Blitz is on. He's got it. Incomplete. Incomplete. Strip loose by Tom Hannon, number 45 again. And they're on their feet here in Minnesota. Watch the pressure by Randy Holloway, Mark Mullaney, and a believe they also blitzed the linebacker, John, in from the left side to put extra pressure on Doug Williams. Watch the left side.
75. Holloway comes in, but Williams keeps his cool. He has that great arm, that quick wrist action. Looked like Giles might have been able to catch that ball.
Except that Tommy Hannon stripped it loose. 10:53 left to go. The Bucs come up empty.
It takes two wheels to have some fun, and you need two more to get the job done. But what can you do with three? Just try the Honda ATC.
11 years ago, Honda invented the ATC three-wheeler. And ever since, folks have been inventing new ways to use it.
Follow the leader, he's on a Honda.
Thanks to a remarkable new data communication system, at the touch of a button, a broker anywhere in the country can now get not only stock quotes, but financial statements and business news reports. Even customer portfolios.
Gee.
No, GTE.
We had to do some scores. 10:53 left in regulation. Tampa Bay went for it on 4th down. Giles had the ball stripped loose. An excellent play by Doug Williams under all kinds of pressure. So you can't fault the maturing quarterback of the Buccaneers. And Tampa Bay comes up short. They still trail by 11. 10:53 left to go. Teddy Brown, Ricky Young are the running backs for Tommy Kramer, who's got Ahmad Rashad wide to the right side, and Sammy White at the top of your screen. They'll work on the clock. Ted Brown, Hugh Green. They meet 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It'll bring up 2nd down and 12. This is the time, John, where Tampa Bay's defense has got to do something. Force the fumble, come up with the interception, help the offense out a little bit, because since the first quarter, when Bill Capiz kicked that 51-yard field goal, it's been the Viking defense which has assumed command of this game.
It's an interesting situation with 2nd and 12 as you see the signals going in from the sidelines of Tommy Kramer. Would you put the ball up and give the Bucs a chance to intercept? This is a time where the Bucs should let it all hang out. Let them blitz, come after it.
2nd down and 12 as Tommy Kramer brings them out. Dennis Swilley, the 6-year veteran from Texas A&M, out over the ball at center. Guards are Huff and Hamilton. The tackles are Irwin and Riley. Tommy Kramer looks for the short pass. Now will come back against the grain. He's got Ricky Young streaking across the sideline, breaks the tackle, and then finally goes down at the 25-yard line. We're going to New York for an NFL update. Brent Musburger, we've got a 14-3 game here. What's going around the NFL?
Jim, it is 4th and 1 for the Bears. They've been stopped 3 times by the Lions at the 1-yard line. Mike Ditka set the play in. Bob Avellini pulls out, and 4 times from the 1, they are crushed. Let's go back to Jim Kelly.
Thank you, Brent, who, of course, has had such a busy week anchoring our special reports, our evening coverage of the U.S. Open tennis, and what a job our CBS Sports camera crew has done covering the U.S. Open tennis and deployed all week to cover NFL football. 9:20 left to go. From the shotgun, 3rd and 11. Kramer tucks it in, now is in all kinds of trouble and will wisely not risk the interception. Now let's take a look at the play just before this, where he stutter-stepped out of trouble and somehow managed to get the ball to Ricky Young.
Watch this play-action fake. They don't buy it here. Big Leroy Selman is fighting Kramer. He jumps, throws the ball, but that's Selman all over. Not much of a chance to do anything for Kramer.
Big play time now for Tampa Bay. Holt is back deep. You looked at Sammy White and Tommy Kramer conferring over on the Minnesota sideline below us. Coleman all set to boom it away. He will go for the near sideline, gets a low, wobbly kick, but still has some good foot into it that Holt will field at the 25-yard line. Running laterally, he loses 5 yards, and to no one's surprise, that is number 49, Keith Nord, who should be all-pro specialty teams based on his performance here this afternoon. He has had some kind of a football game. A 56-yard punt by Coleman. When we come right back, Tampa Bay must get a scoring drive together. They trail by 11.
You can get a Subaru hatchback with either front-wheel drive or on-demand four-wheel drive. Either way, the most important drive they put you on is in economy drive, with low sticker prices and the kind of mileage that lets you feed your family instead of your car. Subaru. Inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Once you put motor on a can, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't watch it work. So how do you know how good it is?
At Quaker State, we put it in writing. We back up our quality with a lifetime guarantee.
How do you know how good Quaker State is? We guarantee every new car engine against oil-related failure for as long as you own your car. We put it in writing.
We're working to keep your car staying on the road.
How do you know how good Quaker State is? We put it in writing. No one else does.
Next Sunday on CBS Sports, a big doubleheader of NFL action. Dallas at St. Louis, San Francisco at Denver, plus other regional action. Next Sunday on CBS Sports.
That's the situation. The Vikings have 14. Tampa Bay has just a 51-yard field goal by Bill Capiz. That came early in the first quarter. And since that time, Minnesota's defense has been playing very well. Not at all like a team that lost their last 5 regular season games to miss the playoffs a year ago. Gordon Jones out wide to the left side for the Buccaneers. Kevin House put out to the top of your screen. Doug Williams, 80 yards from Pater. First and 10. Over the middle, incomplete, batted away by number 54 on defense. That is Fred McNeil, the 9-year veteran out of UCLA. Man was open, but a great defensive play by the former Brew.
Not only that, his offensive line, Doug Williams' offensive line is not doing a great job for him. Number 79, Doug Martin, all over Williams. Charlie Hanna having his problems with him. And that's an offensive line that only got their quarterback sacked 19 times last year.
Of course, John, when you're in the middle of the fourth quarter and you're behind by 11, you need to pick up yardage in bigger bunches than you do earlier in the football game. So they've got to go to the longer pass routes. It takes a little bit more time to develop. Gerald Carter, 87, out wide to the left side now. Kevin House is in the slot formation. Still second down, 10 yards to go. Big rush put on. Doug Williams gets out of it, finds his tight end, Jimmy Giles. First down and more up near the 33-yard line. What a huge target. 6'3", 245 out of Alcorn State. Came to the Buccaneers in a trade with the Oilers in '78, but we've got a flag in the backfield of Tampa Bay.
Holding on Tampa Bay, and everybody we talked to in the Viking organization said the acquisition of Charlie Johnson, the Pro Bowler from Philadelphia, has helped to provide some inspiration for guys like White and Martin, Mullaney and Holloway, that they're playing better just because of his very presence, as we listen to the call.
Number 68 offense, holding, still second down.
George Yarno, the 4th-year man out of Washington State. We'll see if we can pick up the holding call on the free agent. There you can see a big difference in the football game. And, of course, one of the key penalties was the roughing the punter call that allowed the Vikings to sustain a drive that ended up in a scoring strike, 22 yards, Tommy Kramer to Sammy White. It's second down and 20. The Bucs are backing up. They set up the screen. Wilder to the 20, to the 25. Slithers forward to the 27 on a good call. And you can see the deep drop as Doug Williams was chased back into the end zone. Breaking through there as they set it up was number 77 on defense for Tampa Bay, Mark Mullaney, the first-round draft pick from 1975, now in his 8th year out of Colorado State. So they needed 20, and they got 17. It'll be 3rd and 3. This is a very important call in this football game. 8:14, the clock in favor of Minnesota right now. Kevin House out wide in the slot formation. Theo Bell out wide to the left side. One setback. Formation would indicate pass. This is House in motion. Doug Williams can run for the first down. He's got it and much more as he gets across, fumbles the ball. Did the whistle blow? It did. He's got the first down to keep the Bucs drive alive up at the 38.5-yard line.
And that's the extra dimension we talked about as you look at John McKay along the sideline with Gordon Jones figuring out the next play. Doug Williams, when trapped, can run with the ball. I think you'll see some more of that. Watch Doug Williams again. He's back to pass. He can't find any good coverage downfield. Big hole up the middle.
You can see he was looking for Jimmy Giles right there, but Giles was covered by McNeil and by Nord. And finally, Nord comes over. He makes an effort. And finally, 75 makes the tackle for Randy Holloway. 1st and 10, Tampa Bay. 14-3 Vikings on top. Minnesota sending 4. Doug Williams better unload. Completes it to Jimmy Giles. No. He said he did not have possession. No argument. from Giles. Good call. Doug Martin chasing Williams out of the pocket. There is a good case of the right-handed passer rolling left, but still the strength of Doug Williams.
And the flick of the wrist. The good quarterbacks, remember Namath used to throw with that flick of the wrist. Doug Williams, such a strong arm and such a good athlete, running away from all that pressure, flicked it to Giles. Giles just dropped it. After that great effort by Williams.
A sixth defensive back comes in now. John Swain, number 29, fourth-year man out of Miami of Florida. Anticipating pass, Minnesota is. Second down and 10. Giles, the tight end, lines up as a flanker to the left side. They've got a flood formation to the left side. Kevin House in the slot. Doug Williams trying to evade the on-rushing Minnesota Vikings. Fires it to Kevin House. First down, Tampa Bay in Minnesota territory down at about the 45, maybe the 46-yard line. Willie Teal chases him out of bounds. That is number 87, Carter. Gerald Carter on the reception, the 9th-round draft pick out of Texas A&M.
It's interesting the way, watch Carter on the out pattern here, and Williams puts it right in on the numbers. But Williams just decided to half roll to get away from the pressure. The offensive line walled the defense off. He had plenty of time to throw that ball. Carter, 3 receptions for 53 yards today.
In his third year with good speed and good hands, 6'1", 190. This time they send Gordon Jones to the bottom of your screen. Kevin House is at the top of your screen. Quick out. Jones got it. Gets away from 3 Vikings and more. Still on his feet. Scrambling all the way down near the 27-yard line. Excellent individual effort that time by Gordon Jones. 4th-round draft pick out of Pittsburgh. 4th-year man out of Pittsburgh, rather.
A simple hitch. A simple hitch. Jones makes a back-away move. Is always trying to protect himself. Gets that extra yardage. Keeps rolling. Gordon Jones. I remember talking to Jack B. Sherrill one time about Gordon Jones, and he told me he thought Gordon Jones was as good at his position as Tony Dorsett was at his position, and yet Jones really hasn't done it as a pro.
Interesting, who was also down on the play helping blocking was James Owens, who came way across the field. 1st and 10, Tampa Bay, keeping the drive alive. They trail 14-3, 6:25 and counting left in regulation. Quick out to the other side. Fine defensive play by John Turner, the 5th-year back out of Miami of Florida. And let's check the wide receiver. Kevin House really decked by Turner. It was a clean hit, but Turner got the helmet and the pads into him over on the far sideline. Interesting how the Buccaneers are changing their passing philosophy. Down when they had it about their own 15, their own 20, they were taking the longer routes. Doug Williams had to take the deep drops, and they were not very successful. Now they've gone to the short, the quick passes that don't take too much time to develop.
Watch Kevin House, the short play here. Turner comes up, and when he hits the ground, it appears that his shoulder goes into the turf. That might be the injury.
Also, the ball was underneath him. He might have had the wind knocked out. 14-3.
RCA Video Disc. First, we opened your eyes to great entertainment. Now, we're going to open your ears to stereo sound. Introducing RCA's Stereo Video Disc Player, letting you enjoy great stereo entertainment and movies on your TV tonight. Basic players start at $2.99, stereo higher. RCA's Stereo Video Disc. It'll open your eyes and your ears.
Buy the player now and get 2 video discs free, direct from RCA.
Charlie Johnson, number 65, has just checked into the Viking defensive lineup. It's 2nd down and 8 yards to go. Kevin House is out. Theo Bell is in. Doug Williams scrambling away from the rush. Will come back, looks on the post pattern, fires underneath to Wilder coming out of the backfield, and he is just careened down. Number 55 in there on a massive hit for the Minnesota Vikings. He just stuck it in there. Scott Studwell, who already has 1 interception, and the last 2 hits by Minnesota defensively, John, have been very impressive.
Minnesota has never been timid. Remember the purple people eaters. Well, Scott Studwell, Wilder coming out of the backfield. Williams sets himself this time, runs away from the pressure, finds him coming out, and Studwell gets his attention right there.
Picks up 8 on the play, so it's 3rd down now and 2 yards to go. Bucs are down 14-11, 5:15 and counting. Mel Carver in the backfield replacing James Wilder. Doug Williams, the blitz is on. He can run for the 1st down to the right side. Fires in the end zone. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Jimmy Giles.
Did you see Doug Williams waving Giles into the end zone as he was scrambling and just flicked the ball? That is a great talent at quarterback, and he's getting better by the day. Jimmy Giles just kept running away from the defender. Has fine speed as a tight end. Doug Williams again running away from the pressure.
This is the maturity of this team together that we talked about. Giles knows to look back to his quarterback, sees him in trouble, reads the wave correctly, and finds him for the scoring strike. 20 yards, Giles on the receiving end. They go 80 yards in 9 plays. And now Bill Capice can pull the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to within 4 points. Snap, stop, kick, perfect. We've got a dandy. 5:06 left to go, and you wouldn't expect any less from the two teams that have alternated winning the NFC Central Division among themselves over the last 4 years. The Vikings lead the Bucs by 4.
Time. When you ship air cargo, time really is money. That's why Flying Tigers makes you this 100% on-time guarantee. No matter what you have to ship, we'll pick it up, fly it, and deliver it virtually anywhere in the country on time, or you don't pay. Flying Tigers. It's on time, or it's on us.
Flying Tigers.
Bob and Sandy Davis needed 2 incomes to afford the home they wanted. Then tragedy struck.
Allstate update. Joint mortgage protection.
Sandy died before the mortgage was paid. Allstate Life's joint mortgage protection could have helped pay off their mortgage if either of them died for less than the price of 2 policies. But the Davises didn't have it. If you both work, talk to an Allstate agent. For life, home, and auto, put yourself in good hands.
The irrepressible Jimmy Connors meets the man who stopped John McEnroe, Yvonne Lendl. The men's final of the U.S. Open Tennis Championships on CBS Sports next.
John, it's interesting in talking to both the Vikings and the Bucs Friday and Saturday at practice. They thought that either team, if they could hold the other to 17 points, would win. 14-10 right now. That prognostication looks pretty good. Bill Capice, all set, did not get all of this one at all. It goes to the far sideline, fielded at the 13-yard line. They've got a wall of blockers set up, and look out. 1st and 10, Minnesota. There was a fumble on the play, but he was out of bounds at the 39-yard line. Doug Williams all set to come back in if the Bucs had recovered, but he fumbled the football after he went out of bounds. Looks like a rugby scrum down there.
You think Doug Williams doesn't want another shot? You see him come off the bench a moment ago. Look at this. He's watching the kickoff. Oh, wait a minute. I might get another shot. I threw 1 touchdown to Giles. I'll get us back in the game.
And there's the man that had the touchdown pass sitting next to him, Jimmy Giles. Doug said, wait a minute. There's the man, number 88, who fell on that fumble, Marty McDowell, the second-year man out of Mississippi State. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers scoring drive, capped off by that 20-yard pass from Doug Williams to Jimmy Giles. And that is the only scoring drive Tampa Bay has managed to put together so far this afternoon. Before that, their only scoring was a 51-yard field goal by Bill Capice. Ted Brown, Darren Nelson are the running backs for the Vikings, who will try to protect that 4-point lead. Nelson tries to hurdle over a couple of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One of them was Neil Colsey, who would not allow himself to be hurdled over. Lots of action going on. The Atlanta Falcons got a 92-yard return of a blocked point after by Bob Glazebrook to get back into that game with the New York Giants. In Detroit, the Lions still protecting that field goal advantage over Mike Ditka, who makes his debut for the Chicago Bears. The Washington Redskins not giving up. Joe Theismann throws 78 yards to Charlie Brown. They trail the Eagles by just 6. Gifford Nielsen is thrown for 38 yards to Mike Holston. And finally, the Oilers are on the board, but it's been all Bengals in Cincinnati. 2nd down, 4 yards to go. Nelson and Brown are split. Rashad to the near side, White to the top of your screen. Kramer tripped up by his own man. He was trying to get out of the backfield. David Logan, the man that made the tackle secure, but it was number 78 offensively, Steve Riley, over whom Tommy Kramer slipped.
Just a little play-action fake. Kramer looking. I think he wanted Nelson, who he just faked to out of the backfield, but he couldn't. Watch, he trips over his own man right there. As you said, Jim, goes down, and now it's 3rd and 10. Interesting. Kramer here, as you look at number 78, Steve Riley, the 9th-year man out of USC. Kramer has to be careful. A possession pass to get that 1st down. Can't do anything silly and give the Bucs the ball back in this field position.
Minnesota has 2 interceptions. Tampa Bay has 1 fumble recovery in the turnover department. Tommy Kramer, it's tipped, and it goes incomplete, and that could be a blessing in disguise for Minnesota. The Bucs will get the ball back. Leroy Selman, the man that deflected the ball, and anytime that ball is up in the air after a tip pass, it is free territory. Doubleheader next week, a big one right here on CBS. Next Sunday, you'll see Dallas at St. Louis. The Cowboys and the Cardinals. St. Louis led by Neil Lomax, and they were winning as we checked the scoreboard earlier. That will be followed by either the Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers taking on the Broncos at Mile High Stadium in Denver, the Redskins, who are right now trailing the Eagles by 6, playing these Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Detroit Lions, who are holding a 10-7 advantage over the Chicago Bears, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, getting a big afternoon from Burt Jones. Holt fields the ball at the 15. Nord was down there. Loose football. And it looks like the Vikings have recovered at the 21-yard line. 1st and 10, Minnesota. For so many years, the Minnesota Vikings have excelled, John Dockery, on the specialty team. Block field goals, block point after. Take another look. You'll see the first man down will be number 49, Keith Nord. He chases him over to the right side. Now watch 29 come into your picture.
See, Holt is getting away from a few men here. He's in traffic. Someone grabs his arm there. Ball comes loose. The Vikes come up with it. What a break for the Minnesota Vikings.
Number 51, the Viking who fell on the football, that's Jimmy Huff. Huff in his 5th year from Utah State. So just when the Bucs were about to get the football back, trailing by 4 with 3:13 to go, Minnesota comes up with their 3rd turnover of the football game. Slot to the left side. This is Brown blocking for Darren Nelson. Nelson slithers inside the 20 down to the 17-yard line. Norris Thomas, number 41, in there on the tackle. Now, this is an interesting and a very important series because if the Tampa Bay defense can stiffen and force the Vikings into a field goal situation, you then would have that 17-10 margin, and Tampa Bay, of course, would have lots of time left on the clock to try to get what would appear to be the tying touchdown.
I think you'll see Tommy Kramer try to get that touchdown, but not to do anything silly. Might see Joe Sensor doing something outside or one of his wide receivers on a post corner. As you look at Minnesota, that's how they score 4 points or a field goal makes it 7. A touchdown makes it really tough on the Bucs.
2nd down and 5 from the 16-yard line of Tampa Bay. They're in that 3-4 defense. Tommy Kramer, the quarterback draw. Down he goes, might have lost a yard or two. Knifed down by David Logan, 4-year man out of Pittsburgh. So now it's 3rd down and a big play call facing Bud Grant and company as the clock winds down and a timeout is asked for by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have used 1 of 3. They have 2 remaining. So they're utilizing the clock because they know that the 2-minute warning will stop the clock one more time as Tommy Kramer comes over to confer with Bud Grant.
And you have to know that Tommy Kramer's knees are okay. Of course, last year, that was one of the problems for the Vikings. Kramer with 2 bad knees at the end of the season. This year, he told me he was healthy, worked out all off season. And there, when you see a quarterback keeper, you know his knees are okay.
Coming up tonight right here on CBS, following, of course, the U.S. Open tennis, we'll have 60 Minutes, Archie Bunker's Place, the Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, and Trapper John M.D. The 63rd season of the National Football League kicks off this afternoon here on CBS. We've got a great lineup following the NFL today. You've heard of the terrible towel?
No. The Viking sword is in presence. There's 62,000 swords.
Ricky Young, who has a 3-yard touchdown run, checking in along with Tommy Kramer. Number 87, Leo Lewis, checks out. You might wonder where number 81, Joe Sensor, is, the outstanding tight end in his 3rd year out of Westchester State. He has left with a rib injury. X-rays have been taken. He is back on the sideline. So Bob Bruner, the 4th-year pro, is in there in his stead. He is number 82. Bruner is 6'5", 235. Sensor is 6'4", 238. So size-wise, you don't lose much. But Sensor, an outstanding outstanding receiver, in addition to being a good blocker. 3rd and 3. Brown on the sideline. We'll go with Ricky Young and Teddy Brown. Kramer, the ball is batted loose, almost intercepted. It is incomplete. So it is field goal time for Rick Danmar. The last 2 passes by Tommy Kramer have been batted free.
And a good play. As you look at Joe Sensor along the sidelines, urging his team on. Good play by Teddy Brown, so that play wasn't intercepted. Number 59, Andy Hawkins, might have had a shot at it, but Brown came back to the ball strong, prevented the interception.
Big field goal, obviously, for both teams. Danmar will try out of the hold of Steve Dills. Steve will put it down at about the 23, plus the 10 of the end zone. A 33-yard try for Rick Danmar, who was pistol perfect in the preseason. Snap, spot, kick, the crowd will tell you. It is good. A 33-yard field goal as the Minnesota Vikings put 3 more on the board. Their scoring drive was really not much. It was 7 yards in 3 plays. But, of course, when Tampa Bay fumbled that punt, that set up Minnesota in excellent field position, and they capitalized. And that's what division contenders must do. So the Vikings have a 7-point lead. Tampa Bay, if they can get the tying touchdown, we could be here for overtime.
And, Jim, how many times has it been said the special teams mean so much to a team? Tampa Bay special teams have a chance right at this time on this kickoff return to redeem themselves. They haven't played well. A couple of Eddie Payton returns, that fumble on the other kickoff, which gave the Vikings a chance to kick that field goal. Special teams for Tampa have been poor. This is their chance to redeem, to give Doug Williams good field position so he can put a touchdown on the board and tie this game.
We've got 2:06 left to go in regulation. Tampa Bay will have the kickoff. The 2-minute warning will stop the clock. They'll have 2 timeouts remaining. And, of course, they would like some kind of a big play right now from the specialty teams. Morton, number 1, is back deep, along with number 22, Smith, to receive. Danmar's kickoffs, John, significantly have been very short. So Tampa Bay should have good field position.
2:06 left in the game, and Michael Morton, number 1, the return man for Tampa, is a dangerous, dangerous man. Has great speed. His nickname is Mighty Mouse. Runs that 100 in about 9.5. He can break it.
That's Morton, number 1. Smith, number 22, back deep. Danmar has been kicking to the near side of the field. This time he sends a squibber that will hit at the 12. It's fielded by Morton. Has trouble with his footing, his shoe, and his winding, his bunting is coming off there. You can see he had trouble. The wrapping around one of the ankles was loose at about the 20. It looked like his shoe was about to come off, but still a fine return. He managed to hurdle his way up near the 33-yard line, and that's where Doug Williams and the Buccaneers on the short end by 7 points will start. In fact, the shoe did come off.
Going to retrieve that shoe. What a time to lose your shoe, huh? Johnny Ray Smith having trouble on that return.
So we've got 1:58 left to go in regulation. When we come right back, Tampa Bay Buccaneers will drive for what should be the tying touchdown.
At Ford Motor Company, quality is job one. This is one of 800 employee involvement groups formed by Ford and the UAW.
You're concerned with getting that piston in the engine.
Together, this employee involvement group is working on the engine of the future.
What the rings are doing now is setting right on a piece of carbide steel.
Solutions before they become problems. Another reason the quality of our cars has improved an average 48% since 1980.
At Ford, quality is job one.
Here's 2 good friends tonight.
Haven't we been down there long enough?
I know how to get them up. Must say something more. What are you doing? Fishing. So tonight, let it be low and brown.
When you want a taste of a truly great American beer, tonight, let it be low and brown.
Why were you guys down there so long?
Just waiting for a good reason to come up.
Let it be low and brown.
Watch number 22, Johnny Ray Smith, after he fields this kickoff. Watch the shoe come off right there, and then watch the bunting that had wrapped his ankle. That's what he's running on right now. The sock, and there goes the shoe back on.
Defensive backs never could tie their shoes. Look at this. Shaking his head. What happened?
A concerned John McKay and Bill Nelson on the Tampa Bay sideline. Gordon Jones, who was shaken up, is back in. Theo Bell is in the slot. We'll check and see. Kevin House is still on the sideline. Gerald Carter is in his stead. So the Bucs missing their speedster right now. Doug Williams in trouble. Incomplete. And he did well to get rid of the football.
A major accomplishment not to be trapped for a loss. Doug Williams moving around like a matador back there, dodging the defensive lineman, gets rid of the ball, so it's 2nd and 10 rather than 2nd and 20.
Hey, remember when the Rams were leading the Packers 23-0?
What happened?
Lynn Dickey has come back in the 4th quarter and thrown 2 touchdown passes, one to James Lofton from 15 yards, another to Paul Kaufman, and the Green Bay Packers have gone ahead over the Los Angeles Rams by a score of 28-23. The Lions have added a touchdown, so they go up tackle to Mike Ditka and the Chicago Bears by 10, 17-7. It is second down and 10. Doug Williams, wide receivers, left and right in motion. This is Theo Bell to the near side. Doug needs 10. Gives it the pump fake. Fires over the middle. He's got Jimmy Giles. First down and more. Tampa Bay at the 47-yard line. No flags on the play. Keith Nord on the tackle. And Doug Williams goes to the quick hurry-up offense.
And if Doug Williams gets in that rhythm, he'll be tough to stop. Jimmy Giles, of course, his favorite receiver. Kevin House, number 89, the man that can go downtown.
Vikings jumped off sides. Tampa Bay gets a free play. Incomplete, intended for Theo Bell down at the 40-yard line, but we'll check the flag. It appeared to be Doug Martin, number 79, the third-year pro out of Washington, who jumped off sides. So Tampa Bay gets a break because the clock will stop on the penalty call as well. We've got 1:27 left to go in regulation.
We talked about Doug Williams' maturity all along, Jim, and this is a point where it will be tested. The good quarterbacks, the Tommy Kramer type of quarterbacks. With 1:27 left in the game, he's got 48 yards for a touchdown.
Offside, still first down.
He needs 48 yards for a touchdown and a tie. He'll tell us about something about Doug Williams right here.
First down and 5 yards to go. Of course, the mark of a veteran quarterback when you're in this kind of a situation, not to get greedy. You don't need it all at once. You've got 2 timeouts left. You've got some outstanding wide receivers. You work the sidelines. Try to get them out of bounds. Work on the clock that way. Theo Bell to the top of the screen. Wilder the lone setback. Vikings coming with 5. They set up the screen to the right side. Wilder's got 2 in front to the 40, down to the 35. Breaks through 2 more Vikings and slithers forward down to the 30-yard line. First and 10, Tampa Bay inside the 30. Turner on the tackle.
Smart call. Smart call. Nice execution, James Wilder. The rush is on. They know the linebackers are dropping deep to cover. Williams gets the ball to Wilder, who makes it. He has a choice right here of running outside and getting out of bounds to stop the clock. He decides to go inside to go for the big gainer. He gets a good chunk of yardage in the first down.
Got a nice chunk of yardage indeed. 1:16 left to go in regulation. You can see at least the outwardly calm, cool, collected John McKay.
You think he's thinking about his golf game?
Not at all. He's got his mind on this. He felt this was a very big game for his young Buccaneers. Coming off that impressive win at Detroit last year in the Silver Dome, they had something that they really had to prove to themselves and to their fans because, of course, that first playoff game against Dallas was a disaster. So they felt that the preseason was important, sure, but that's the time when you break in the rookies. You work on tuning up the defense, as we described before. But this game, coming against Minnesota, their division rival, very important because there's less room for error when you're playing a division rival.
Well, they had an excellent preseason. They were 3-1 last week. They annihilated Atlanta, shut them out. So I think one thing that McKay and some of the people in Tampa were worried about was possibly even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being slightly overconfident. There's a difference between believing in yourself and knowing you can win and saying, well, we're that good. We went to the playoffs last year. We're better this year. And to take a team lightly, which I don't think they could do here with Minnesota, that was one of the worries. As you look at Doug Williams' stats, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 2 interceptions, yes. One of them not his fault, the tip ball, the other a bad throw.
That's right. It's first and 10 from the 30-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. Tampa Bay with 1 timeout remaining. Bell and Jones slotted out to the left side. Gerald Carter at the top of your screen. Minnesota will be coming. They'll send 4. Over the middle, incomplete, and intercepted. Number 37, Willie Teal. It was deflected by the linebacker, the veteran, Matt Blair, number 59, in his 9th year out of Iowa State. And Willie Teal comes up with another interception. So the Minnesota Vikings, who only had 16 interceptions all last year, have 3 this afternoon. This one by Willie Teal, who led the Vikings with 4 last year.
Of course, Matt Blair is a large linebacker. He's 6'6", and that's the difference here. Those extra 2 or 3 inches. Doug just doesn't get it up high enough. Blair tips it. Teal, the old tip drill, pays off here with the interception to shut down Tampa Bay's drive.
There he is, Willie Teal, the man of the moment, helped out, of course, by Matt Blair, and certainly the front 4 of the Vikings, who have been putting all kinds of pressure on Doug Williams in the second half. The Vikings have been in that Tampa Bay backfield almost at the snap of the ball.
Boy, Doug Williams thinking on the sideline, wow, had I thrown that ball another 3 or 4 inches higher, Blair wouldn't have got it. My receiver would have made it, possibly got into the end zone. Instead, Willie Teal,
well,
number 37.
We had just, John, before that play, showed you the stats on Doug Williams, who had a fine afternoon by Eddie Standards. 3 interceptions, 2 of them on deflected passes. So the aggressiveness, the newfound aggressiveness, if you will, of the Minnesota Vikings, because they had to improve on the 16 INTs from last year. Tommy Kramer will just hit the artificial turf. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers only have 1 timeout left to go, and they will undoubtedly use it now as we are inside of 1 minute left to go in regulation. Coming up, of course, after the NFL today here on CBS, we've got a dandy for you, the finals of the U.S. Open Tennis. Yvonne Lendl, the number 3 seed, taking on the number 2 seed, Jimmy Connors.
Boy, Jimmy Connors, it looks like a new man. He looked so impressive yesterday in beating.
You know, it was interesting. Early in the week, he said that he had not yet emotionally fired himself up. Well, he certainly reached an emotional peak in his semifinal match yesterday. And our coverage here on CBS, Tony Travert, Pat Summerall, Virginia Wade, all courtside out at Flushing Meadows. We've got 28, 27, 26, and you can see the clock winding down. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had won their last 3 opening games, will go down to defeat at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings. These 2 teams have alternated as division champs in the NFC the last 4 seasons, and there's no reason after this performance to expect anything less. A big division battle. This one won by the Vikings by a touchdown. Also, a large credit goes to their defense, John.
Exactly. Defense was excellent. Of course, Tommy Kramer did it when he had to do it. He hit that touchdown pass to White on the post pattern, an excellent play. So the series now will be 7 wins out of 10 for the Vikings, dominating the series. And of course, when you look at that Central Division, you have to know that both these teams will be there. Of course, Detroit with Billy Sims, a good one. Another good team. Green Bay coming back today. I don't know the final score on that, but the only team you might count out is Chicago, and who knows what Mike Ditka can do for them.
The executive producer of the NFL on CBS is Terry O'Neill. Our senior producer, Charles H. Milton III. Today's game produced by Ed Gorin and directed by John McDonough. And our thanks to all of the technical people, all of the camera folks who have brought you the sights and sounds of this opening game here in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, the Vikings and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You don't think we've got a lot of technical people spread across America today? 63rd NFL season opening up, U.S. Open tennis. This will be the last play of the football game. So the Minnesota Vikings will go on next Thursday night and take on the Buffalo Bills.
As many as 40 to 50 passes. Why not? He's got a new weapon, a new dimension. Number 1 draft choice, Darren Nelson from Stanford. Coming out of the backfield, he is just tremendous. At the same time, he's got the man who more closely resembles Lynn Swann than any other in the league. The magnificent veteran Ahmad Rashad. Healthy again. And how he can do it with speed and grace.
Coming home to be with their relatives in sometimes this week.
It gets me in my heart.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Jackson's delegation was jubilant. They had succeeded without the support of the U.S. government and against all odds.
And Jesse Jackson is the great motivator. They can turn the world around and give people incredible hope. The door was closed. The door was closed. It wasn't going to be open. It's open.
The Yugoslav president may have been looking for a diplomatic wedge to help him escape from his isolation. He's had little leverage to stop the NATO bombing of his country, and the release of those 3 soldiers may have been one of the few cards he had left to play. Walter Rogers, CNN, Belgrade.
The families of the 3 soldiers have been waiting for their loved ones since March 31st, and as we said, soon the wait may nearly be over. CNN's Jim Hill is in Baldwin Park, California, at the home of one family. Jim?
Hey, guys. Well, Brian, we're in Baldwin Park at the City Hall, where any minute now we expect the family of Staff Sergeant Andrew Ramirez, one of the captives, to address the media for the first time today. By way of background, I can tell you that the Ramirez family has kept a low profile up until now, preferring to hold off until it received official word from the U.S. government that the 3 POWs would in fact be released. But the family has now apparently decided to come forward and give us some of their comments. We'll go to that live as soon as it takes place. Also, We have received word from one family member in the Ramirez clan saying that, quoting now, "I have mixed emotions now until I get official word from our government. You can imagine how happy I will be. I am quite overwhelmed now." That word from Nadine Ramirez, the sister of Staff Sergeant Ramirez. Elsewhere in the country, in the hometown, Huntsville, Texas, of Specialist Stephen Gonzalez, there was also reaction from family members and some very pointed comments from Rosie Gonzalez, the captured soldier's mother.
We were praying and hoping for that, but it was just still as shocking to actually hear that will happen. And we are just overwhelmed emotionally right at the moment. After so many days of not hearing anything about our son, to have heard yesterday that he was being treated well, and we were so relieved about that. But now that God just keeps answering our prayers.
The third captive, of course, is Staff Sergeant Christopher Stone from Smith Creek, Michigan. And his relatives, in particular his mother-in-law, Lisa McKinney, talked about their hopes. After all, the Staff Sergeant has a wife, Tricia, and a young son, Brian.
I hope it's true. I really, really hope it is true. You know, we have our fingers crossed so that he can come home to be with Tricia and Ryan. And we're just, until we get a phone call from the government or we see them leave from Yugoslavia, we're praying.
Now, all of these families, of course, have been going through quite a lot the last couple of days, starting with the beginning of the mission by Reverend Jesse Jackson and his interfaith group, and word from the Yugoslav government yesterday that the release of the POWs was not something it wanted to discuss, was not possible. And, of course, word today now from the same government agency in Yugoslavia that the release will, in fact, take place. And the timeline we've been given, of course, is 8 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts, Yugoslavia time, which on the West Coast here in Baldwin Park, California, would be 11 o'clock at night. So certainly the Ramirez family is going to be watching all these events, staying awake tonight and seeing if this really does take place. There will be celebrations not only in Baldwin Park, where Sergeant Ramirez's mother lives, but also about 10 miles to the southwest of here in East Los Angeles. That's where young Ramirez grew up. He was born in that neighborhood in East Los Angeles and lived there until he joined the Army about 8 years ago. So we expect a lot of celebration if the release does in fact happen in both of those neighborhoods. As soon as this press conference gets underway, we will be covering it live, but at this point I don't see members of the Ramirez family here yet. Brian?
All right, thank you. That is CNN's Jim Hill awaiting the family of Sergeant Andrew Ramirez, and when it happens, we'll go to it live. A short time ago, we did speak to CNN White House correspondent Chris Black, and we asked her how the Clinton administration is reacting to the day's developments.
The White House is reacting cautiously to news that Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic may turn over the 3 American soldiers to Reverend Jesse Jackson. The White House had no independent confirmation of this news until Reverend Jackson called the White House earlier today and spoke to National Security Advisor Samuel Berger. Mr. Berger told him that the White House would welcome the release of the 3 soldiers and view it as a positive development. But apart from that, administration officials are not saying too much.
If true, it would be good news. We always felt that these 3 POWs should not have been captured in the first place and should not have been held. But as I say, we've seen the reports, we have no confirmation, and I think we'll just have to wait until we know more facts before we can say more.
White House officials had discouraged Mr. Jackson from undertaking this diplomatic mission. They said they were concerned that President Milosevic would try to use the 3 soldiers as a bargaining chip to convince NATO to change the conditions of stopping its bombing mission. Indeed, NATO shows no indication that it intends to stop the bombing. If anything, they're intensifying the pressure. President Clinton signed an executive order yesterday, which went into effect today, imposing a sweeping trade embargo on Yugoslavia. The embargo stops all commerce between the United States and Yugoslavia and is particularly aimed at stopping petroleum and oil products from getting into that country. It will also stop the petroleum from going into the ports at Montenegro if that oil is intended for Serbia. Chris Black, CNN, the White House.
And Yugoslavia's foreign ministry spokesman has called for a political dialogue to solve the Kosovo conflict.
appeal by Reverend Jesse Jackson and Congressman Rod Blagojevich, and we made a decision to release 3 American soldiers. This is a gest of goodwill, a goodwill gesture. We are devoted to reach a peace and political settlement of the Kosovo and Metohija situation. We wanted to emphasize that our decision is also a sign of support to the endeavor of Reverend Jesse Jackson and Congressman Rod Blagojevich for peace and better understanding between people and the human being.
We apologize for that background sound during that phone conversation. Yugoslavia's state-run media says that a NATO missile struck a civilian bus Saturday, killing at least 40 people. The attack reportedly occurred as the bus crossed a bridge north of the Kosovo capital, Pristina. Journalists were taken to the scene. They said the bus was split in half, with bodies and body parts scattered nearby. The civilian death toll would be one of the highest since NATO began its air campaign. NATO says it cannot exclude the possibility that it happened and is now looking into the Serb charges. And CNN's David Ensor joins us now live from the Pentagon with more on the reaction there. David?
Well, as you say, NATO and Pentagon officials say that this was not on their target list, but they cannot absolutely rule out that the bus may have been hit by NATO. There were a lot of questions about it at the Pentagon briefing today. Here's how the spokesman handled them.
We have seen those reports, and we have absolutely no confirmation of them. We've been checking both here and at SHAPE, and we have found nothing to confirm those reports. We continue to check.
Was such a bridge on the target list yesterday, last night?
It was not.
It was not?
No.
No bridges north of Pristina in that area?
Well, I didn't say that, but I said that that particular bridge was not.
So on the one hand, NATO officials say they do not believe it was on the target list. On the other hand, they can't not absolutely rule it out. There are so many NATO planes now flying over Kosovo. Very good weather last night, and they're going after not only targets that they've already planned, but what they call targets of opportunity. When they believe they see military activity that they believe they might be able to target, they will just hit it. It is possible that a mistake was made, hasn't been ruled out yet, but officials also point out that in the past they believe that Yugoslav aircraft have also sometimes targeted civilians on the ground in Kosovo. So still an element of mystery to this story. Now, NATO is stressing that they are going ahead with their bombing campaign. We just saw pictures there of some of the targeting that went on last night. There'll be more of that. There were 70 to 80 different targets hit. And officials say that the appeal by Reverend Jesse Jackson for a pause in the bombing is not going to be met. The NATO bombing campaign, say officials here, will continue. David Ensor, CNN, reporting live at the Pentagon.
All right, thank you, David. When Worldview continues, perspective on the expected prisoner release from a man familiar with Slobodan Milosevic.
These hands have been trusted with many a small head.
Come on in.
Arthritis will not change that.
Who's the big boy?
Presenting Tylenol Arthritis Extended Relief. It lasts up to twice as long as regular aspirin without irritating your stomach, so you're in very good hands.
You know, you're a lot better in the barber chair than your dad was.
Tylenol Arthritis. Take comfort in our strength.
So many shirts, so little time. That's why LandsEnd.com has its unique Oxford Express, so you can choose just the shirt you want, click by click. LandsEnd.com. It's the website that fits you.
Imagine this is Florida, and that's Walt Disney World, SeaWorld, Universal Studios, Epcot Center, and this is Kissimmee St. Cloud, offering the closest and most affordable accommodations in the middle of Central Florida's best attractions. Call 1-800-711-KISS, and we'll send you a free vacation guide with information on affordable hotels and campgrounds. If you can stay here, why stay anywhere else? Kissimmee St. Cloud, location is our biggest attraction.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We want to take you live to Baldwin Park, California, where the family of Sergeant Andrew Ramirez is about to make a public statement on the imminent release of their son.
If you're ready now, I'll give it to you. It's in Europe. It's U.S. Army Europe. The phone number is 011-496221-578739. And that is the number for Army Public Affairs Europe, and they'll be handling all media requests in Germany. And as far as the Ramirez family's plans, they don't know yet. That's all being worked out still, so they just don't know. But they do say they don't want to take anybody with them. They like just to be alone. So I give it, this is Vivian's day.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Hi. As you all heard, I think you heard, that it's a big day for me, for us, that little Andy and the other two soldiers will be released hopefully tomorrow morning. I'm waiting for the call, the big call, saying that they are on the bus on the way out. So I'm gonna wait anxiously and with probably TV on all night with my phone next to me so I could pick it up as soon as they call in. And of course we'll be going to Germany to be reunited with my mijo.
Vivian, what's the first thing you're gonna do when you see your son?
Cry. First thing I'm gonna do is cry when I see him, and then I'll hug him. And I will not let go. I will not let go. And tell him how much I love him.
Tell us about the moment when you first heard he probably was going to be released.
When I heard it this morning, I got scared. I guess I got this feeling, this emotional feeling, because like I said, I cannot really believe the news. I have to hear it from someone else. So when I heard this morning, right away I called to see if it was true. And until I got the word that from Major Dunn that it looked like it was good, and to get ready, pack my things.
What do you think of Jesse Jackson?
He's a lifesaver. He will be my hero. He will be my hero when he brings my mijo home. I really do thank him.
Did you have much thoughts or opinion about him before this that you can share? Any feelings about his image or anything?
Not really, no. You know, he had called me before he was leaving to tell me that he was going to go visit the boys, and that wanted me to tell him what I would like for him to tell him, and that he was going to try to bring them home. And I said, fine, bring him home.
And at that moment, what were you thinking? Did you think he had a chance?
You know, tell you the truth, I didn't have anything in mind. You know, I can't be putting my hopes high. I can't be thinking, oh, he's going to come home. He's going to do it. I can't think that way, because all it does, I'm blowing this big, big bubble, and then for it to just bust if it didn't happen. So I just go day by day.
What family members are going to be headed for Germany? I know his brother's LAPD.
He's going to be going. His brother, Stephen, Nadine, his sister, Vanessa, will be going on our trip, and his father, Andrew, will be going also.
Vivian, do you worry that maybe your son is being used as a political pawn? In other words, if they bomb tonight and then there might be a chance that they change their mind, is that something you think about maybe?
Yes, we've got to keep that in mind. Like we said before, until we see it, that's when it'll really hit us. Right now, we're just hopeful. We're hopeful for that everything that they are saying, it will come true.
Your relatives and your neighbors were saying that you were inside resting today. It doesn't sound like you were really able to rest.
Oh, no, I wasn't resting at all. No, I was too nervous. But I couldn't come out to say anything because I didn't know what was really going on. So I felt better just staying inside and getting my thoughts together and waiting for a good time and an answer. This way I could tell you what is going on. Now I know that maybe it's definitely tomorrow. Hopefully, I pray that it will be.
Ms. Ramirez, what are you going to do when you see your son?
I said I was going to hug him. A big, big hug. Kiss him and tell him I love him and not let go. I'm not going to let go. I will not let go.
Do you think he has any idea what a big celebrity he is now?
Right now, I don't think so. I don't think he knows.
What do you think he'll think of that, being a big celebrity?
I don't think he will ever think that. I don't think that's running in his head right now. And I don't think it'll get into his head that he's a big old celebrity or anything.
Would it embarrass him? Would it...
He's a very shy person, my mijo. You could even tell in the video that they sent, Jesse Jackson sent, that he was still looking down and looking shy. Maybe he was saddened too. Maybe, you know, seeing him and then maybe thinking he'll go and I'll be still here.
Ayer salió muy bien en español. Déjeme pedirle, ¿cómo se siente hoy? Podríamos comenzar a celebrar. Díganos otra vez en español. Gracias.
Estoy muy feliz ahora, muy feliz, más que ni ayer. Y sí podemos, porque se me hace que mañana sí vamos a ir. Ojalá que sí. Tengo que oír más, pero tengo mucho gusto que sí vamos a ir mañana.
¿Cómo sintió usted cuando le dieron la noticia?
Me sentí muy feliz. Con muchas gracias a Jesse Jackson, que fue para allá y pudo, ojalá que puede traerlo para atrás.
Vivian, what kind of celebration do you want to plan for when Andrew comes home?
A celebration? Oh, gee, you know, I really couldn't say.
What are you going to cook for him?
Well, you know, his favorite is In-N-Out, so he'll probably want me to drive him to In-N-Out. He'll say, forget your dinner, Mom. I want to go have a double-double, is it?
You saw the television images, and how do you think he looked besides looking a little shy?
He looked thinner. He just looked thinner, but he looked really healthy. He really did. Like if they were really taking good care of him.
What will you tell him about the support from this community?
I've already told him when I wrote his letters that were taken to him by the Red Cross. I told him about everybody in the neighborhood. I told them had yellow ribbons and they were praying for him. And I told him not only that, that I was getting letters from around the world and that he was getting a lot of support, a lot of support. Now, when he did write back to me, he did say that he was really happy, and he was happy that he was getting all the support from all the people.
Who on the phone told you to get ready, that everything looks good?
Major Dunn from the Army. Él me dijo.
When did you get that call?
This morning, or noon, I think, or noon time.
Did you already have your bag packed though previously? Because we've been close to this point before.
No, I didn't have my bags. I'm not gonna lie and say I did. I think I would have been more depressed looking at my bag there all the time and not going anywhere. This way, today I will pack. Just throw anything in there.
Is it something you want to take to give Andrew that you're going to bring of his to take with you?
Not really, no.
Based on the pain that you've had to go through, do you have any different feelings now on our involvement in this area of the world? As we talk about maybe ground troops being sent in?
No, I have no comment on that. I really don't.
Vivian, we know that there were reports earlier that there may have been a release a few weeks ago. You've been through this before. What's the last month been like for the family?
Well, after when he wasn't released that Easter Sunday, that they thought he was going to, of course, I was really down on that. And I just went day by day, you know, just hoping that something would happen. And I think my day came.
So after Germany, does he come back here? After Germany, does he come back here, or what? What happens?
I can't hear you.
After Germany, does he come back here, or what happens?
We're not sure, but I'm pretty sure that, I'm not sure, but I think he'll come home.
Do they let him stay home for a long period of time, or do you know what the...
that I don't know. I don't know about that.
Do you have any feelings about him staying in the Army and continuing to serve, even maybe going back there?
Huh? Yeah, it's up to him. It's up to him. He only has a few more months to go. I think it was May of next year. May of next year, he's supposed to get out. And he already had told me before all this happened, that this was going to be his last term. He went in only for 2 years, and then he stretched it to 7. So.
What do you want to do for his career next? You know.
He was LAPD. Wants to be a police officer, like his brother. That's what he wants to do. Yeah.
Have you been in contact with the other families today?
Not today. I just saw them on TV, but I haven't talked to them today.
Is the plan still for you to fly to the East Coast first and reunite with the other families?
No, I'm not sure about that. No.
Has he talked about the other soldiers with him?
Little Andy? No, in his letters he didn't.
What did his letter say?
It just said he's doing a lot of praying. He misses us and he loves us, and he could hardly wait for him to come home to be with us. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I just want to let you all know, Baldwin Park set all this up, and I think we owe them a debt of gratitude that they would come out on us after.
And you were listening to Vivian Ramirez. She is the mother of Sergeant Andrew Ramirez, whom she referred to as Little Andy. She told reporters at an impromptu news conference in Baldwin Park, California, that this was a big day for her to see Little Andy and the other 3 soldiers be released, and she'll be waiting anxiously for them to board the bus to freedom tomorrow morning. Tonight, she will spend her night by the television and by the phone. She's anxious, obviously relieved, but still very cautious and hopeful. And she said the first thing she will do when she sees her son is cry, hug him, and not let him go, but she doesn't plan to cook him a meal because he seems to like takeout food. We're going to take a short break and resume our coverage in just a moment.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic, your guide through the wiles of communications.
Tonight on Larry King Weekend. We're on at 10 p.m. Eastern. Join Mother Love and more on the school shootings. 10 Eastern on CNN.
Into spring with indoor-outdoor carpeting from Menards. Status by Tribune is extra durable. Perfect for porches, sunrooms, and family rooms. Choose from several colors, just 39 cents a square foot. Give your home a new look with Dutch Boy paint. Dirt Fighter exterior acrylic gives a durable finish that resists blistering and peeling. Just $12.97 a gallon. Menards is your home decorating center.
Save big money at Menards.
Turner Classic Movies presents Betty Davis, Star of the Month.
I've seen every picture Betty Davis has made. I wouldn't miss this for anything.
Her fiery personality explodes on the screen.
How do you like it? Oh, it's marvelous.
You haven't seen anything yet. The real surprises are coming.
See a sizzling week of Betty Davis every night at 8 p.m., beginning Monday, May 3rd on Turner Classic Movies.
The Moneyline News Hour with Lou Dobbs, weeknight 6:30 Eastern on CNN.
The expected release of U.S. soldiers from Yugoslavia raises speculation about the motives behind the decision. And to talk about that, we're joined by Ambassador Robert Barry as the head of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe's mission to Bosnia-Herzegovina. Ambassador Barry was often dealt with Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic. Ambassador Barry is speaking to us by telephone from Sarajevo. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Brian.
How would you read Mr. Milosevic's motives in releasing these 3 soldiers very suddenly?
Well, Milosevic is a consummate tactician, and I'm sure this is another tactic in his effort to avoid trying to do what NATO and the Western community wants him to do in terms of coming to a conclusion of the situation in Kosovo.
He's hoping to manipulate public opinion, in your mind, in the U.S.?
Well, I'm sure that's a consideration. I mean, if he had any really serious offer to make, I would have thought he would have made it to Chernomydrin, the Russian ex-prime minister and former envoy who was just there a few days ago, and that didn't seem to be anything really substantial. So I am skeptical that this means anything really serious in terms of a new departure for Milosevic in dealing with NATO on this issue.
As an ambassador, you've worked with him, you've met him. Does this signal to you that he is breaking under the NATO barrage?
Milosevic is a very stubborn person, and in fact, I think at the moment there's a wave of public support for him in Serbia in particular. So I'm skeptical that he is breaking at this point. My own view is that he will probably continue to try to avoid any substantial negotiations for some time to come.
Let's look on the other side of the fence then. Should NATO give any consideration to his suggestion that there be an unarmed force that could be deployed in Kosovo once Yugoslav troops are reduced, and would that be enough? Could that possibly be accepted by NATO?
Well, let's not think about NATO. Let's think about the several 100,000 Kosovar Albanian refugees who have left there, and think about whether they would want to go back in a situation where there was nothing other than an unarmed observer force that was in the area. I don't think that the refugees would have any indication of going back at this point after the horror they've been through without an armed force there that can give them security. So I think that has to be our consideration in this.
Should NATO also pick up Jesse Jackson's suggestion that there be a pause in the NATO bombing campaign because of the release of the 3 soldiers?
Well, I think that in the absence of any indication that Serbian troops are being withdrawn from Kosovo, or any indication that there is some real substantive negotiation on the table, that simply the release of these 3 soldiers is not an occasion for us to change our policy.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Ambassador Robert Barry, the head of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, in the mission to Bosnia-Herzegovina. And that is all for Worldview. I'm Brian Nelson at the CNN Center in Atlanta. We'll have an update on Yugoslavia's decision to release the 3 captured U.S. soldiers after this.
My most important role is being a parent. My children aren't impressed by awards. They just want me to be there for them. That's why I've always loved reading to my kids. They think I make a very scary witch and a great duck. I'm Meryl Streep, and I urge you to read to your children every day, especially newspapers. Reading newspapers will give them the whole story of what's going on around them, and reading will prepare them for the most important role of all, life.
Encourage your child to read a newspaper every day.
I'm Brian Nelson at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic has agreed to free 3 captured U.S. soldiers. They are expected to be freed less than 8 hours from now. Mr. Milosevic was persuaded to free the prisoners by the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Jackson said the U.S. should respond with a bombing moratorium. The Pentagon, though, says that will not happen. And NATO says the bombing is continuing around the clock. Yugoslavia says a NATO missile killed 40 civilians on a bus in Kosovo. The Pentagon says it cannot confirm those reports. A spokesman says the bus was not on NATO's target list. And that is a look at our top story. And for more on it, Reliable Sources is up next.
Behind the lines in Belgrade, a CNN correspondent under fire for his reporting. Have journalists done enough to challenge the Serb side of the story? And week 2 of the tragedy in Littleton, have the media gone overboard?
From the museum in Arlington, Virginia, the nation's museum of the news media, this is Reliable Sources with Howard Kurtz and Bernard Kalb.
Welcome to Reliable Sources, where we turn a critical lens on the media. I'm Howard Kurtz, along with Bernard Kalb. We're back at the Newseum, the Museum of the News Media, and we'll be taking questions from our studio audience a bit later in the program. We begin now with the coverage of Kosovo.
As NATO airstrikes moved into their 5th week, journalists continue to face their own tough challenges covering the war, filtering official versions of the ongoing conflict from both NATO briefers and Serb officials. President Clinton ordered the call-up of 33,000 reservists to active duty and faced 2 votes of no confidence in Congress. The House of Representatives rejected a non-binding resolution supporting the NATO campaign and voted to prevent the president from sending in ground troops without its approval. A number of correspondents remain in Belgrade, including CNN's Brent Sadler, who has reported many details of the damage done by NATO airstrikes.
The injured, some reportedly with serious burns, were taken to hospital. At first light, they were still searching through the ruins for survivors, with little hope. It may only have been for the short term that NATO blocked Serbian television, but the human cost in doing so appears high.
Sadler came under fire this week in The New Republic for, in editor Charles Lane's view, not doing enough to challenge the official served version of events. And Lane asked this broader question: what price access? When do the constraints of operating under the control of a violent, totalitarian government that is at war become so great that responsible TV journalists simply pack up and go?
Joining us now, Charles Lane, editor of The New Republic. And by phone from Belgrade, CNN correspondent Brent Sadler. Also with us, Ann McDaniel, managing editor and Washington bureau chief of Newsweek. And Frank Sesno, anchor and Washington bureau chief for CNN. Chuck, you've issued a pretty harsh indictment against Brent Sadler and CNN, but aren't viewers smart enough to know that he and others in Belgrade are operating under some pretty difficult conditions?
Well, yes, except that in a good deal of the time that Brent was there, early in the war, that wasn't really being stated directly by the network as it now is. So for a while, that wasn't being made clear to viewers.
Lack of a disclaimer. What else troubles you about the coverage?
Secondly, there are some things that have been said by Serbian officials through Brent Sadler, as it were, through either his interviews or tape packages that he's done that have simply gone unchallenged. Claims about high death rates among sick people in hospitals, claims that all the damage in Pristina, for example, is caused only by NATO bombing. And I have felt that even given the constraints he's under, which are harsh to be sure, he could have pushed back a little bit, because after all, Belgrade needs CNN in there too.
Brent Sadler, your response.
This in the wider context, Charles, that our job here is to be objective, is not to take sides. At the same time, you must also understand that we see an awful lot of information that comes our way which is quite clearly unverifiable. You're talking about an interview I did recently with the health minister here about deaths, increase in deaths, and difficulties in the medical service. Now, take into account that even though there are restrictions on access here, I get to see an awful